Once a month, every month, I block out an entire week. No meetings, no calls, no external commitments, just protected time to really work on the things that matter most to me and the things that are going to matter the most to my business. I started doing this several years ago and I didn't expect it to really have the impact that it has. I wrote my upcoming book this way. I built entire funnels, launched new programs, prepped entire launches, and planned full quarters in these weeks. And now it's like one of the most sacred things in my calendar. So in this episode, I'm walking you through exactly what those weeks look like, why I do it, and the 3 types of retreats that I rotate through each quarter. If you're a business owner in pretty much any niche, I would say, I bet you know exactly what all of us struggle with. And it usually starts with a list somewhere. Maybe it's in a doc, in your project management folder. It could just be living in your head rent-free, but it's one of the things that you really want to work on. It's full of those projects that if you had time for, you would finally do. Maybe it's a funnel you want to build, a program that you've been meaning to create forever, the system that you keep meaning to document, the big project that you know is going to change everything for your business. And that list of ideas and projects just kind of sits there because every single week, every single month, you're in delivery mode. You're on calls, you're managing client work, you've got kids to pick up, appointments to get to, a life that doesn't politely pause because you have a big project you want to work on. And by the time Friday rolls around, you've been incredibly busy, but you haven't touched a single thing on that list. That was like my status quo for way too long, especially when I was doing a ton of client done for you work. I had big projects that I wanted to work on and I really could not find the time to work on them and make any real progress because I was always working in my business or on clients' businesses instead of on my own. Pretty much the best thing that has ever happened for my business is me realizing that one big thing needed to be changed, which is I started blocking out one full week for a retreat every month. And now I rotate through 3 different types of retreats depending on what my quarter needs. My quarterly planning retreat, my quarterly project sprint, and my quarterly pure mastermind retreat. Here is a little bit of the monthly retreat philosophy. So as you probably know, context switching is expensive. Every time you stop delivering client work and try to switch into strategic or creative mode, there is like a context switching ramp up cost. You have to get back into the project, remember where you left off, get into the right headspace, remember what comes next. And then just as you start hitting your stride, it's time to go back to the other thing. You never actually make any meaningful progress and you certainly don't finish the thing that you wanted to, right? My monthly retreat strategy is designed to eliminate that. You get to go deep. You stay in one mode for days at a stretch, and the momentum that you build is completely different from what you can create in these like scattered pockets of time that you might be used to. One of my favorite books that I think really underpins this entire strategy is The 12-Week Year by Brian Moran and Michael Lennington. The basic premise of that book, if you haven't read it, is that you treat each quarter, each 12 weeks like its own year. And built into that system is a concept which I love, which is the magic week 13. So in a 12-week cycle, week 13 is yours, right? You can use it to catch up, get ahead on the next quarter, or like I do, take it completely off. Or this could be that pocket of time that you use for your monthly or quarterly retreat if you don't have the time or your life isn't designed for you to do this monthly. So I'm going to go deeper on how this connects to my quarterly planning retreat in a minute here, but I wanted to just like plant that seed now because I feel like, if you haven't read that book, I encourage you to read it because it really completely changes, I think, how you think about your calendar and just like how you think about like they have all of these examples in this book of people who use this method to get more done in a quarter in a 12-week cycle than most people do all year. Some of you, you might already be thinking, I can't just block out an entire week. I have clients, I have obligations, things will fall apart. And I thought the exact same thing, but when I intentionally prepped for them, nothing fell apart. What I found is that most things that we think are urgent are actually just things that we have been trained to feel urgent because you've always been available. When you give people advance notice, set clear boundaries, they adjust. Your business isn't going to collapse because you took a week off from meetings, right? A few things that make this work in practice is to tell clients at least 2 weeks in advance. Set an out of office so expectations are managed automatically. Block the calendar and actually block it off, right? Stick to it and give yourself permission for the week to be completely imperfect sometimes. Life is going to interrupt, right? And that's okay. A partially protected week is still infinitely more valuable than no protected week at all. Something that I do is when I'm planning my year, I block off all of these weeks in advance. They might move to different weeks, but they're blocked off. And so I have something to look forward to every single month, which really does something for my motivation. So like I mentioned, I have 3 types of retreats that I rotate throughout the quarter, but you don't necessarily need to do all 3. You might just pick one and run with it for a full quarter. I can think of some examples of clients who have implemented this system for them. They maybe had a backlog of projects that they really needed to ship and get out. Maybe you start with just all project sprints. If your business feels disorganized and you're feel like you are just making it up as you go every quarter, the quarterly planning retreat could be a great starting point for you. Or if you're needing some connection and pure support, the Pure Mastermind retreat is totally where it's at. Pick which one is most needed for you where you are right now and begin there. Just a little bit of kind of my history with these is I remember maybe 3 or 4 years ago, or even longer than that, I think at this point, I was working on a new funnel that I wanted to launch and I put it off and I ended up having to go home for the week, and it was to my parents' house for the week. We had some emergency reno issues that needed to be done. And so I went home for the week and it was not ideal to do client meetings. And so I ended up just being I canceled everything in my calendar. I was like, okay, well, since I'm here, I'm going to get all of that funnel completely done. And I remember ending that week and yes, it was stressful being in a new spot. However, I remember thinking, I wish I could have a week like this all the time because the amount of progress that I made was just it was way better than those pockets of time. And so that was really kind of the inspiration and motivation for well, I am in charge, so I can bake this into my routine, bake this into my quarter, bake this into my months. And I don't necessarily need to leave and go somewhere else and do this retreat or retreat from my life, but my work time can be kind of in retreat mode. The first type of retreat that I run is the quarterly planning retreat. And I do this one obviously every quarter at the end of the quarter usually. And it's 5 days and it's entirely focused on setting myself up with really a clean and focused slate for the next 90 days. I want to give you an example of the agenda that I typically follow. So day 1 is review and digital cleanup. This is I'm such a nerd. This is my favorite day of the retreat. I go through everything. I go through my inboxes, my filing system, my inspiration bank, my incoming ideas bank, my AI prompts. Now I gather all of my metrics from the past quarter. I do something called the Kaizen review, which is a Japanese concept that means small incremental improvements. I look at 4 areas of my business: visibility, leads, sales, and delivery. And for each of those, I note my current benchmark metrics, 3 things that are going well, and 3 tiny improvements that I could test in the coming quarter or implement in the coming quarter. If you're somebody, also I would say if you're somebody whose mental state is really affected by external mess, and mine absolutely is, this day is everything. My home and my environment are a reflection of how I am doing internally. And so when those things are a mess externally, I'm feeling it internally too. One of the fastest switches for me when I start to feel really anxious is to just clean my space. This day does that for your entire business. You go through and you digitally clean everything and organize everything. This day, like I said, this is the momentum that this day creates going into the rest of the week really makes you feel unstoppable. Day 2 is for goal and action mapping. So this is where that 12-week year system really comes into play and into focus. So I start by reviewing my annual goals, do updates on them, and plan out my new action plan with weekly roadmap for exactly what I'm doing in the coming quarter. So I identify for each week of the quarter, those 12 weeks, what are the 3 focuses, 3 milestones that I'm focused on hitting for my goals. I work in 12-week cycles, and then in week 13, like I mentioned, I take it off completely to recharge, just focus on fun life stuff or travel. That's my creative reset before the next cycle starts. Day 3 is marketing and content planning day. So I start with idea gathering, I have my goals, and then I go through any questionnaires or surveys or conversations for ideas. And I pull those in, right? Because oftentimes the best content ideas are sitting right there. And as much as I can, I try to get my audience to tell me what they want me to talk about. So for each topic that I choose for my editorial calendar, I set a timer for 10 to 15 minutes and I do a free write. I just dump everything that I'm thinking about that topic onto the page. I don't edit, I don't filter. I just get everything down that's in my head about it. And when I go to do a script for a YouTube video later, most of it is already written. So a 10-minute, a 15-minute, however long you want, of a free write during that planning week is going to save you hours during the production and execution of that plan. It's one of those things that I think sounds like super small. It's so funny. It's like one of those things that I recommend to my clients and they're just like, oh, that's too small to work, right? They don't take it too seriously, but when they actually start to do it, it really completely changes the experience of content creation. So by the end of day 3, I have my editorial calendar, I have my topics, and I have my free writing all figured out. I've also identified what I'm marketing and how I'm selling that quarter. Then day 4 is implementation day. So all of those micro optimizations and small system changes for my Kaizen review on day 1 go on a list. And on day 4, which is the day that I'm talking about right now, I knock them all out in a day. So have you probably heard of an admin day where people block out an entire day or an afternoon to answer emails, make calls, make appointments, run errands? This is kind of like that, but for your business and for optimization. So this could be funnel tweaks, automation updates, new systems, anything that needs to be changed or improved in the back end of my business. So instead of those improvements living on a someday list for the next 3 months, I dedicate a full day to just getting them done. So this day alone, I think is worth the entire retreat rate. This is often where a lot of those results will come from. So then day 5 is my personal planning. So I know this one might surprise you, but it's completely non-negotiable for me. So I start by reviewing my personal goals, whether that's health goals, hobby goals, house goals, family goals, anything else. I figure out what I can do to make each of those areas better, slightly better in the coming quarter. And then I think about fun and giving myself lots of little things to look forward to in the next 12 weeks. What recipes do I want to try this quarter? What DIY or craft projects? What hobbies do I want to explore? What mini trips or adventures do I want to go on? What books, TV shows, or music is coming out that I'm looking forward to? This day is a reminder for me, really, that the business exists to support the life and not the other way around. When I plan this fun stuff intentionally, it actually happens. Surprise, surprise. And honestly, I find that going into a new quarter with lots of little things to look forward to really changes the energy of everything else. So that is my 5-day quarterly planning retreat agenda, kind of in a nutshell. Next up is my project sprint retreat. So this one I do in month 1 or month 2 of the quarter, and it's one of the most focused weeks that I really have. It's also how I've made more progress on big projects than I ever thought humanly possible, especially when I was doing a ton of client work. The concept is pretty simple, right? You have one big project, just one thing. You give it a full week of protected time, and before the retreat starts, I like to break down a detailed action plan for the project. I don't go into the week winging it. I know exactly what needs to get done and in which order. So when I sit down on day 1, I know exactly what to do. The important thing for me personally is that I don't assign each action item to a particular day or to a particular time block, because I don't know about you, but things often take me way longer than I think that they're going to take me. Nothing will kill my momentum faster than feeling like I'm behind, right? So I just want to remove that completely. So for me, just having that list of things that need to get done and in the order they have to get done is like the perfect amount of preparation. Then during the week, I work in 90-minute sprints with 30 to 60-minute breaks in between it. The rhythm is really important. It keeps me focused during those sprints and it keeps me from like burning out on Wednesday. So I aim to do like 4 to 5 of those 90-minute sprints throughout the day, and then I'm done for the day. During those breaks, I'll read a book, I'll go for a walk, I'll go for a workout, sit down and eat without distractions, or do something creative like painting or weaving for me. I've used these weeks to complete entire funnels, prep new programs, get full launches ready, and most recently writing my upcoming book. I genuinely didn't think that I could write a book while running a business, especially in just a week, but these weeks proved me completely wrong. The reason this works is pretty simple. So when you're also in delivery mode, big creative or strategic projects are constantly deprioritized. There's always something that feels more important or more urgent. A sprint week removes that competition. The project gets your full attention for 5 days, and you'll finish the week wondering, I know for me, why didn't I do this sooner? I know for myself, whenever I've wrapped up this week, I always have the thought that I wish I could just work like this all the time, but that's not entirely practical, which makes these weeks feel really special. Finally, I have the retreat that refills my cup more than anything else. So my other 2 retreats are completely solo, heads down, and very internal. This one is the complete opposite. A few times a year, I get together with some peers and biz besties for a multi-day retreat. We find an Airbnb somewhere, usually 3 to 4 days plus travel on either end, and we just go deep together. The structure is looser, but there are some essentials. Like for one, each of us prepares a little mini masterclass, a private presentation about a strategy or approach that's working in our business or with our clients right now. The last one I shared was my niche branching process. We share those, we brainstorm, we mastermind. It's like having a private members only event with people that you can actually trust to know things about your business, who are in the trenches with you and who get it in a way that most people in your life just cannot. But it's not all business either. We hire a photographer for updated lifestyle photos and headshots. We film content together. We go for really great dinners. We go grocery shopping in a new place, which for me, as a Canadian who gets very excited about US grocery stores, means a Trader Joe's run every time. I've found that this type of retreat does something that the solo weeks just can't. The energy that you get from being around other ambitious, intentional people who are building something just like you is really hard to replicate. You go home with new ideas, renewed motivation, and usually a few strategies that you cannot wait to test. This one is like coming full circle for me this year. I have spent years flying somewhere else to do this, but this October I'm hosting one myself in Canada on Vancouver Island where I live. I'm going to link the details down below. If it's still available when you're watching this, come and experience this with us. And if the timing has passed, keep an eye out because this is something that I plan on doing at least every few years. So those are my 3 types of retreat weeks: the quarterly planning retreat, the project sprint week, the pure mastermind retreat, 1 per month, rotating through the quarter, each one serving a completely different purpose. And if you want to build your own version of this, I put together 3 retreat agendas, 1 for each type, that you can use as your starting point. They've got the full structure mapped out, so you're not starting from scratch, figuring out what to do with the week. And if you want to experience that version of that in person, I'm hosting that pure Mastermind retreat on Vancouver Island. The details are linked down below, and I'd love to have you there. If this episode was useful, please subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, and I'll see you in the next one.